We're having an actual buyer chat today with not only myself, but with the two lovely ladies behind Dare gift boxes, Rebekah and Colleen Steedly. So I love it. I love having conversations with other buyers, but especially whenever it's gift box buyers, because it's just a whole different side of the business. And it's my most recent buying experience. So I just love that business model so much. And so it's a really fun conversation. We talk a lot about what it's like to evolve your business. You'll get to hear about the business journey. They were not initially co-founders of the business. They evolved that partnership into what it is today. So we talk a lot about what that journey looks like for them, what it's like to work with a friend, how that goes, and really understanding, okay, this is your brand voice. How am I going to take that and source product that fits my brand voice? They share a lot of really great insights around what they look for when it comes to other brands and some tips and do's and don'ts whenever it comes to pitching brands. So I hope that you really enjoy this chat. I had so much fun with it, and I think you're going to get a lot out of it. So let's get right to it. Hey friend, quick question for you. Are you feeling stuck with how to get your brand to stand out on Faire? I'm asking you because as a buyer myself, I can tell you that there are just so many brands out there vying for the attention of these buyers, but I know that your brand has something so special and it needs to be seen. I put together a private podcast for you that goes deeper into what buyers are really looking for on the Faire platform and how you can stand out from the crowd to grow your wholesale business and really land those dream buyers. So if this resonates with you, head to the link in the show notes for instant access. Well, Colleen and Rebekah, I'm so excited to have you guys on the Buyer Side Chat. Thank you for coming on and chatting today.
Thanks for having us. Really excited to finally get to connect and have this conversation.
I know, me too. I know we've been talking on Instagram for a while from my Boku days, and it's just so much fun to have you on here. And also, this is the first time I've ever had two guests at the same time. Well, two people on recording. And so of course, in Kristen fashion, there were tech issues leading up to this. So I'm excited to have you both on here and talk about Dare gift boxes, but also just your business journey. So if you guys want to just introduce yourself and just talk a little bit about what brought you here, I'd love to hear, because I know you have a really interesting background.
Sure. Gosh, I'm Rebekah Murray. And Colleen, do you want to introduce yourself?
Oh, and I'm Colleen Steedly.
So we've actually known each other since we were kids. So we're childhood friends, turned into adult best friends, who then turned into business partners. And the business also had quite the journey. So let's see. I'm trying to make this somewhat brief because it's kind of a long meandering story, but
that's okay.
I started what became this company back in 2016. At the time, it was a clothing brand primarily. I had been a wedding photographer for a long time before that and felt like there was a need for a certain aesthetic of women's dresses. So I started a dress brand with a Kickstarter back in 2016. And over the next 2 years, grew that company and then ran into some issues with manufacturing, with just needing to scale the company to a larger level than it kind of ever did, and then also COVID. And so along the way, a good friend of mine, Colleen, ended up helping me with this idea of creating a gift box that people could send to their friend. I think that wasn't that before COVID, the first winter one?
I think it started a little bit before COVID, yeah.
And it was kind of the idea that I was struggling with growing that business, and I thought gifting could maybe be more of a customer acquisition strategy, even more than a product line itself. So it was going to be more how our customers shared our brand with other customers. Then COVID hit, and so I decided just to double down on the gifting idea since my factories for making dresses closed down 2 years in a row. So I really had no way to make the primary product. And I was still working as a wedding photographer along the way as my side job. And eventually the gifts just started to really take off in a way the dresses never had. And around that time, we were just getting super busy. So Colleen just offered, I think maybe I asked, but maybe you also offered just to come in and help the business on a volunteer full-time basis and just to help this brand new growth where we were taking off on this brand new product line. And that first holiday season was so successful. And we also just realized that we worked really well together. We just have very complementarily, but totally opposite skill sets. And so I asked if she would be interested in joining as a business partner after that first holiday season, and she was open to it. So we then, for the last several years, have worked full-time together, and then just together slowly transitioned the company from being a dress brand to a dress and gifting brand to about, I think it was 2 years ago, in 2023, we phased out the dresses completely, rebranded, and are now just a gift box company.
It's so cool. I love, like, you actually were very succinct. I would not have been able to be that succinct with that journey. So, that's impressive. But it's so interesting hearing people's evolution. And I think what's really cool about your story is that you just allowed the business to kind of evolve as it needed to, and just kind of like let it, I don't want to say let the business dictate where it went, because I'm sure you were guiding that and you were really integral in saying like, okay, there's an opportunity here for this. But your business decisions, it sounds like you just were intuitively letting it happen and bringing Colleen in. It's like, it started out as just a side hustle piece of the project with Colleen supporting, and now it's your full focus. Yeah. So it's so interesting. And I love hearing that story. Did it feel like there were any points where you were like, I don't know if this is the right thing? Like, what were the things that like let you?
And it's like, how many times a day? Like, when you encapsulate a very, complex journey into 5 minutes, it sounds really confident and simple. But at the time, I just remember the overriding feeling I would feel is like, this does not feel graceful. This feels messy and unsure, especially the switching away from dresses to gifts. Because it felt like the right thing to do. But to your point, I think it was always very, well, ideally like market driven, like noticing what our customers were responding to. And I think what was also especially difficult is I was very emotionally connected to that original brand. And I think we probably wouldn't have ever successfully fully made that pivot without Colleen being a part of it, because she didn't have that same emotional tie to the initial idea. And by nature, one of her strengths is being more on the logical side. So I think it was always like she probably saw it I know she saw it way sooner than I did, but it still took a lot of even like external life situations to really be able to fully feel confident in those decisions. And we're both Christians. And so I would have to also credit like our faith and a lot of prayer and like seeking good advice and counsel, and just honestly, a lot of prayer went into it, because it felt very unnerving to feel like this business I had built for so many years. And, when you've built a business, you sacrifice years of your life just to work. And there was a lot of fear of, will all of that be for nothing if this idea doesn't pivot the way we think it will? So there was a lot of like unsettled, unhappy, very anxious feelings as part of that transition. But then we were really surprised by it really exceeded expectations, even in how our current clients adapted to the idea and how easy it was to find new people to come into the new idea.
Yeah, I think along with Rebekah's point, obviously I was less attached emotionally to the dress brand because I hadn't been involved as long. I mean, I knew her the whole time, but I had not been involved with the process. So it was easier maybe for me to see, okay, kind of maybe it's time to shut that side down. But I think for both of us, sometimes like the external environment of what's happening in our lives kind of helps us, okay, like which direction do we really see the business succeeding in? And I remember over like that whole time period, my dad would, I don't know how often he said this, be like, good business is where you find it. Rather like kind of like, you might want to consider making a change. And be like, yeah, well, and so, because obviously totally understandably, Rebekah was more connected to that side of the business than I was. And it's like such a drastic pivot. But I think in general, part of the whole brand from the beginning to now is all about, personal connections, making life beautiful. And that went from dresses and clothing to gifting. It might seem very different, but in a lot of ways, there was, I think, a lot of connect to it. And then it was like, that became personal gifting. And then some of our clients were like, oh, I want to send it to 15 of my clients. And we're like, oh, maybe it could also be business gifting. Mm-hmm. And so I think it did, even though it may sound very different to people at the beginning, it actually kind of did slowly morph into that.
Yeah. And it's funny that you say that, because I was following you guys on Instagram before the gift box shift. I don't even know. Yeah. I don't know how I found you. Probably a brand that because you're in the DC area, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I'm friends with slash client slash bought her product for Boku from Tulisa Natural.
Lisa, I thought so.
Anusha? Okay.
I knew her personally. A friend of mine opened a boutique called Park Story, and she carried, and I met her through that. So I helped my friend open this store that sold our dresses, and she carried her shower steamers. So I met her way back when long before the gifts opened.
Yeah.
So, okay. That's awesome.
How. So that I'm like, I think that is the connection of how I started following you. Yeah. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. So when you were I don't want to say just the dress brand, because that makes it sound diminished, but when you only were, because you had a brick and mortar store, right?
No, we were in Park Story. We were in several locations, but we were always a D2C, but we had some wholesale partners locally.
That's what I'm thinking. So I must have just found you through that. And so his whole like rambling sidebar comment is to get to the point of saying, as a like viewer of your business, like on the outside, it felt like a natural transition. And I think that really comes through whenever you're doing something that's so aligned, and you're like the thread through of dresses to gift boxes. Like you were saying, Colleen, it's like, it's the lifestyle, and it all is tied together. And so it didn't feel like this stark transition on the outside. So I can absolutely see how that played into it. So Colleen, I'd love to hear a little bit about your backstory and how you came to be the part-time side hustle helper to now running this business together.
So I've done a lot of different random things. When I was right out of high school, I joined Chick-fil-A, and I became a manager there pretty quickly. So I did manage a team there at Chick-fil-A for a few years. And then I did some other, I had a lot of smaller odd jobs. Like I taught piano. I do some different work for ministry. And one of my passions is really missions in a lot of ways. I do a lot of short-term mission trips. I play the French horn and I help with medical missions. So when I started, Rebekah, there was during COVID, around that time, and Rebekah was having some of her parents having some medical crisis. And so just we were becoming better friends. We went to Iceland together, just on a fun trip. It was a really random, I was tickets were cheap. And I was you would not go to Iceland for just 4 days. And we were sure. And we bought the tickets, I think the next day for the next month.
And we weren't even super close friends at that point. The trip was kind of our first we like hanging out.
Yeah. Yeah. So
it's really big,
yeah, it was hey, let's go to Iceland. And it was a lot of fun. And so then I think we just became better friends through all of that. I went through some personal stuff. She was going through some personal stuff. And so we became closer friends, spending more time together. And I think in a lot of ways, the business at that point needed a little bit of help. And I was okay, I'll just help her out some. And as she said, she was a photographer. So I was hey, can I trade you some help? And you shoot my family for I can give them a Christmas present, the full family shoot, all my extended family. And she was sure. And so I did that. And then I kind of kept helping out a little bit more. So we got our whole family shoot. Took a long time to coordinate that, but I love the family picture. And so that's kind of how it started. And then even before she approached me, I had already thought of it. And I was kind of okay, I'm helping out a lot. And at that point, I didn't have a specific, I knew I still wanted to keep doing the mission work, but I didn't have a solid full-time job. And so I kind of had already had that thought process of okay, that's probably the next step. And so then when she approached me, I was yeah, sure. It already had been in my mind. It wasn't something that was just completely random. And I just really love it because sometimes, yes, work a ton as a small business owner. You work at 10 o'clock at night, but then other times I'm able to go leave for 2 weeks. I just went to Ecuador last month for a week. So it gives me that flexibility as well. And I really like that.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think it's cool that your journey together evolved. You weren't besties at the start of it, It's maybe you were close, but you got really close on that trip. And it's this, not many people just decide to go to Iceland for 4 days together when they're friends, but not at that level, because that's a commitment.
Yeah.
So it's God was pulling you guys together to be okay, you need to isolate yourself away from real life for a little bit so you can realize that you're meant to do this thing. So I love that. I'm curious, as the relationship has kind of deepened on becoming business owners together, and now you're running the business together, how do you guys structure your roles in terms of you were saying, Rebekah, earlier, like, her skill set is different and complementary to yours. So how does that balance out? And has it been seamless, or have there been some times when you're like, oh, okay, we got to figure this out a little bit more? If you want to share that, you don't
That's
have to.
a really thoughtful question. I mean, my perspective is that it has felt really seamless, and I think partly because we just are so different. We're alike in that we travel really well together, and traveling together has been something we've gotten really good at, and we try to travel like every year, like something, exciting. And I think just as you get to know someone, we also volunteered with another organization together. And so we've had like different buckets in life that we work together in. And it's felt, I mean, sometimes you do all the things and maybe it takes some time to get that discernment to know like which are you, which is better at this. But I feel like it's felt like a pretty easy process to each verbalize, like, I don't really enjoy doing that. You seem better at that. I feel like this is more what my thing is. And I think we have very different roles that we enjoy. And so it's felt pretty easy because we're each like, well, I would rather do the thing that I like and you're good at that and you don't mind doing that. So I think it's felt, from my perspective, it's felt like a pretty easy process. And it's taken some time, but it's felt fairly seamless to kind of divide and conquer.
Yeah.
Colleen, any other thoughts?
Well, yeah. And to that point, I think also we both came from different backgrounds. Like she had studied some digital marketing and so it handled more like social media. I never really had. So like she already had, and she was a photographer. So a lot of those skill sets were kind of already built into what she already knew because she was a professional wedding photographer. She already had studied digital marketing. I can do basic stuff in Canva, but I'm not going to do like designs or anything. It's just like, not my strength. Whereas like I'm much more of like a numbers person. Like I said, I managed a team at Chick-fil-A. So like I enjoy like more the operations side of things. And I think in a lot of ways we have some similarities in our personalities. We're both kind of more type A, like go get her done type of thing. But then at the same time, I'm more of like, okay, the numbers and that side of the thing, like what's the bottom line? And Rebekah will be more the dreamer and like that side of things. So I think it's just really been a very natural fit for both of our personalities and our backgrounds.
That's a nice compliment. It's like one of you is the right brain, one of you is the left brain.
Yeah.
So it helps you to balance out the skill set, which doesn't always happen easily. I think a lot of times people get into business together and they both have the creative vision together and they are both, have a lot of skill set that overlaps, but there's nothing wrong with that. But I do think it's important to have that balance of skill sets. So there's not a lot of gray area of who's owning what. And like you said, things come up all the time. So you can just kind of naturally say, okay, I'm going to take this on. Like there were so many times where I would sit there and I'd be like, oh my God, I would just love to have a business partner right now that really liked doing QuickBooks before I had hired a bookkeeper, things like that, to just be like, oh, somebody else can own some of this like mental load. And because the mental load of having a business, that alone it can feel really isolating when you don't have somebody that's like in it with you.
It can feel crushing. And one thing I remember so strongly is right when, like, it took us still a little time to officially move forward. And we kind of like, we'll take it slowly, make sure this is the right decision for both of us. But around the time that she was like more officially a part of it, I remember just feeling such a weight off because it had been a kind of a long slog of so much of that kind of crushing burden. And I remember Colleen being like, I was waking up at like 4 a.m. with like these ideas of things we have to do. And I was like, this is what it feels like to have a burden halved is I feel lighter. She now, unfortunately has it, but it's such a difference when you have that person to really carry it with. And I think we've just been so like, I can't give people business advice of like how to find the right partner because it really feels like a miracle of how well suited we are to get to run this business together. And I have to just be only grateful for that. It's not like I set out to find the right candidate and like interviewed people and settled. It was like, this has worked out so much better than we ever hoped for, but we really didn't even know going into it how well and how complementary what we do would be. So I'm just grateful for that. But I know other people who have partnerships that aren't going very smoothly or they don't enjoy work or they don't work as well together. And so I think it's an area that's kind of a lot of risk to get right, but can be such a huge help when you get it when it is right, but it's hard. Like, I don't know how someone would just go out and find the right partner. I think it would be challenging to get right.
Yeah. I mean, I think you kind of said it a little bit when you were talking about just having complementary skill sets. Like if you were to interview somebody to bring in as a co-owner or a partner, it's like, well, what are you lacking as an owner or founder that would be supportive for you, and maybe hiring first for that skill set and then also for personality, because you have the similar working style, which I think helps. I think it's hard whenever somebody is so type A and the other person is so not type A. There can be like resentment that happens and things like that. So I don't know. I've never had a founder, but just hearing what you guys are talking about, it sounds like those would be that would be advice that I feel would be helpful if someone was looking for that.
Absolutely. And maybe this was also a help is try traveling with someone first, because travel is almost like work. Like it's, on the spot, like decision making and collaboration. And there's a mental load that you have to carry and figure things out and enjoy spending time together and, learn how to manage your emotions when things don't go well. And all of those things kind of happen. It's almost like a little capsule of like running a business with someone is taking a trip. So I think what did help us is realizing how well we operated in that. So maybe that could be like a test run for people as part of the interview process is a backpacking trip.
Your future business.
And I feel like also if you are going to be business partners with somebody, you also really have to enjoy spending time with them.
Yeah.
Because even if you're a perfect complement on you check all the boxes, I mean, that makes a difference. Like we can go like, hey, let's go get ice cream and not like just be work related. Sure. We usually end up talking about work one day or something or another nowadays, but it's not like it's like, oh, okay, I got to go see Rebekah again. It's like, we'd be happy to go hang out on a Saturday with friends and go for a hike.
Yeah.
And it's not like, oh, I got to see her again. Right. So like, I think that it's not like you're looking to build a friend in, but I feel like you almost have to be, it has to be somebody you enjoy spending time with, or it's just not going to work.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. That is your like full life.
Yeah.
Like you said, you don't have to be best friends, but enjoying spending time absolutely makes sense. So I'd love to talk a little bit more like specifically about the gift box component of the business, and really just from like a vision product perspective, how have you guys really navigated, and I'm so curious about this, just assorting into your product line and really like finding that vision from the product? Like how does that look like having two people in it and kind of setting the tone for your collections?
Well, so I think because we kind of came from a dress company, one of the things that we've sometimes at times struggled with is like, okay, exactly what is the voice of the new brand? Because before it was a very specific, a very feminine brand. We knew exactly kind of more who we were marketing to. And so then as we slowly became a gift box company and then became a gift box company that's also now doing so much business gifting, it's okay, what is the brand voice? And I think in general, we haven't pinned it down 100%, but we really just tried to keep it feeling really personal, really like a classic, nice, elegant feel. And I think in general, we do a ton of product sourcing. And sometimes it's like we have an idea and it'll be like, oh, let's do a s'mores theme box. And we look for it. And other times I will just spend time looking through Fair. Rebekah will see something at a market and take a little picture of like, hey, look at this little product. And then it's like, oh, this is a cool item. Maybe we could build this type of box. So at this point now, I handle that more so, but obviously Rebekah still comes up with ideas, and sometimes we'll put a box out there and it just falls flat and we're like, well, we sold one of those, too bad. And that's always part of it.
Yeah. Oh yes, I know that well. It's like, oh, this is the best gift box I've ever designed. And then like no one likes it. And you're like, really? So I fully get that. So, okay. So Colleen, now you are owning or more responsible, I would say, for that sourcing component. So when you're on Fair or when you're out and about kind of looking at things in the stores as you're shopping or things like that, what is it that attracts you to a brand or a product that feels like it's the right fit for your company?
So I feel like in general, it needs to be good quality. It doesn't have to be like super expensive, because actually I feel like in general, our market is not ultra high end. We actually have, I feel like maybe more of an average market. It's not cheap product, but it's not like really, there's some gift boxes that are super high end, like wooden boxes and all that. And that's not what our market is. And so I feel like obviously cost is always a big factor. And then just like the aesthetics of the product, because sometimes I'm like, the product might be great, but the box is just like, it's just too like loud, or it's too this, and it's just like, it's not going to match the fit of what we're looking for. Sometimes I do it by location, because some people do want something local to an area. And I did the fair market sales that run twice a year. That's honestly a huge time when I just spend tons of time sourcing and looking and looking. And I'll be like, great, let me try this brand. They're brands that we've tried and then we continued buying from through that. And then the other thing that I do sometimes really enjoy is when the brand has a good story. Like one of the brands we gives 5% to a specific charity, and like that type of thing is always nice for people to know that, hey, this candle company gives back. And so I feel like that's kind of, cost is always a big one, just the general aesthetic of the product. And then the brand story is also nice.
Yeah. I love that you touched on all of those things because I mean, I know I speak your language. It's like the price point, I know all of it, especially the packaging, like it's going into a box that has to look beautiful together. It's not like one individual product on your shelves. It has to sit together. So it's like you're coming at it from a different buying lens. And so I completely understand all that. I am so curious. I love that you talked about the brand story because that was really important to me too, bringing stuff in for Boku. So when you're finding those brand stories, where do you go to learn more about a brand? So like if you find a brand on Fair, where are you going to learn more about them? Or if you're finding them out in a boutique? Just curious.
In general on Fair, I usually I'll click their bios a lot. Some of them have really detailed stories. Some have very little. And then a lot of times I'll maybe flip to their Instagram. And that's, I feel like usually the main two places where I would see it is there because they'll link to their Instagram. Yeah.
Yeah. I talk to a lot of brands about optimizing their Fair profile. And there's always so much opportunity in the bios that I always see whenever I'm going through and doing like audits or anything, because it's prime real estate. And I wanted to ask you because sometimes I don't think brands realize how much buyers actually do look at that. And it would have been okay if you didn't say that, but I was just like, let me just ask because I do think it's very important. You're already on their page.
I can't say I look at it 100% of the time, but I would say probably at least 90% of the time I at least check that. So I think it is really nice. And it's not like it's going to make or break it if they have a bad bio, but especially if it's like a really cool story, that it is always like an extra plus. So I do like that.
I think it also helps speak to the quality aspect if we're trying to have something that's unique. And I think another opportunity that most brands I feel like don't take advantage of is what that candle company did. And following up with us, after we placed our opening order, or maybe we order like a sample thing, is they sent us like all of this great content, like a Dropbox folder of like images we could pull from that basically helped us share about their story and their giving back aspect. And it was so great. Like, when we try to build that storytelling into our social media, it's so great when our brands give us content to share. And I thought that was a great way that they used not only a great bio, but they also gave us content, which made it so easy for us to share about them. So I can't think of another brand that's done that. Can you?
No, not that I know of.
But they did a great job with that.
Going along with that, I feel like one of the things that's really huge and really helpful is when brands are communicative. Because sometimes, and I know life gets busy, but sometimes you're trying to get info because you need something for a client. And then it's like the brand doesn't answer you. Or a lot of times, which I'm really disappointed in, and sometimes brands won't put all the info of the product there. Like they won't tell how long the shelf life is. And then I'm like, well, I kind of need to know. So it's like, because what if it's a 1 month shelf life? What if it's a 1 year? It could be so different. And so when some brands, like you message them and they're messaging you back, and it's like you feel like they're really communicating, and others you have to message like 4 or 5 times. Then it's like a week later, here they are. So I feel like that's a really big deal. Like we have one brand that just sometimes takes so long to ship. We don't really know if it's coming. So it's kind of like we just know they're not a reliable. Sometimes you like the product, but you just know it's not reliably going to get to you, and it's always a hindrance to us.
Yeah, I mean, everything you're saying, I'm like, yep, I totally get it. And I think too,
for sure,
on the gift box side of it too, it's just a unique market and a unique type of retail business, because when you have that custom component, it's different because you are trying to get a specific order, and it's kind of like a brand landing a wholesale order. And they're talking to their suppliers to make sure that they can make the product. On the gift box side, you were trying to land a corporate order and they need to turn around yesterday. And so you're like, I need a brand to answer. And if they don't answer in 24 hours, you have to move on because you have to. So I totally get that. I love what you were talking about too, with like making it easy for you to do marketing and to highlight their brand. I always talk about that because you are trying to tell the story about your gift box. And what's so important is that you're searching for and sourcing for brands that are what's the word? Aligned with your brand values. Like you want brands coming in that align with your brand and your boxes, right? And so it's so much easier whenever you just have marketing put in your hands and you're like, okay.
For sure.
Next month, the marketing for, one of the days or an email campaign, like can be all around this. It just makes it so much easier. Are there any other things that brands have done in terms of like directly pitching you or any type of outreach that has stood out to you? Or maybe it's more of like, these are the things I wish they did that aren't really happening.
I love when they include extra products as samples in an order. It's a really great way to love more of their products that we might not have tried in the first place.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel like samples, I know it costs the brand money, but I feel like that really is a really big value add, because so often the product might look fine, but then you get it in and you're like, oh, it doesn't taste very good or anything like that. Like, it's funny, we keep mentioning this one candle brand, but I remember when they had a little sample kit you bought, and if you bought it, and then if you ordered with them, that would deduct from your cost. And they sent us like boxes with like all of these scents,
dozens of
and
scents.
like multiple candles, like the vessels too. And sure, that maybe cost them, I don't know how much money, maybe $100 even, probably not, probably like 50 or less. But we have bought thousands of dollars of candles from that company. And I think we might even still have the scent set here. So it's like, they invested a little bit more in us at the beginning, and we order for them all the time. I think every time I place an order, they like email back, message back, thanking us for the order. So I feel like something like that, where they give you a huge sample set, you really can kind of experience the brand, and you go, this is a high quality product. It's the price point I want. And they've really gone above and beyond to try to sell me on the product. And I remember that I think with another cookie supplier, where it's like, you buy the sample kit, you sent us a whole sample of cookies, and then when you order from them, you get that deducted. And I feel like it's extra motivation for us to be like, oh, great, we like the cookies. Now we're going to get that discount off, just like a little extra plus. And it gives you a better experience of the brand before you actually go and place an opening order with them.
Yeah. I love that, because it's a good reminder, because it is an investment, and a lot of brands are starting out. But whenever it's really aligned, if it's a really aligned retailer, then it makes sense to invest in that. It's like, and it sounds like in some of these instances, you've been purchasing the sample boxes or the sample kits. Are you doing that through Fair, or was that from a direct pitch?
Through Fair, both of those.
Yeah, sometimes we do get people reach out to us independently now. Like, I know one person is supposed to send me a sample kit because he I think called us or something. So we do get that also. But then a lot of times it's like, you see them, you like them, and then I'll just message them on Fair and say, hey, could you send me a sample? Do you have samples?
Yeah. So it sounds like you're finding most of the brands that you're working with, and you're not getting a ton of cold pitches.
I feel like the brands that we end up going with are more ones that Colleen has sought out and found.
Yeah. I think it's good to hear that, because so many brands that I work with are like, I don't want to be annoying. I don't want to, send the emails and follow up. And I'm like, you guys have a successful gift box brand. And so anybody listen, you might get a slew of pitches after this episode.
As long as they send samples.
Yeah. But it's good. It's really good to hear this, because sometimes buyers get pitched so much that it's like, I'm getting pitches that don't even align with my shop at all. But then other times, like, you guys are seeking out product that's right for your brand. So there's room for opportunity for people to be pitching, I think, particularly gift box brands, because you constantly need so much product.
Absolutely.
And we keep like a bin of like products that we're not maybe currently carrying, but it's like, if we need something along that line, like if somebody requests something, that we'd be like, oh, we have this like in our little product pitch bin, just in case we need that size of a candle or that type of item. So I do think like, I don't know if I've ever turned down a sample from somebody if they said, hey, I make this product. Could I send you a sample? I'd be interested. I don't think I've ever turned anybody down. So, I mean, yeah, I would say absolutely.
Yeah, doing the pitching. It's like it's a lot of work, but also it helps to convert. I kept a sample closet for the same reason as you. It's like, you never know when you're going to have a company come to you and say they want some like off the wall design, or you're like thinking about a new idea for a client. You're like, wait, I have a closet full of stuff. Let me just go in here and physically look at it. Because it is hard on the buying side to not have physical products in hand to assort with. And I think I personally was spoiled because I had years of assorting lines with physical product on my corporate side. And then when I suddenly was just buying for myself, it was like, oh, I don't actually have samples now. I'm doing it on a screen. It's like a whole other,
it's so
whole other
different
thing. Yeah. Yeah. So I wanted to ask you, just in terms of like your process when it comes to, planning out your collections, do you guys have like a inspiration that you kind of work from and then you build it out? Or is it more so like a seasonal collection build out? Or are you guys focused more on the corporate gifting side and less on the e-commerce? I'm just curious how you guys have that structured.
Good questions. Colleen?
I think it's always a mix. We always try to have a really solid e-commerce showing because yes, more of our clients are doing custom, but so often the first impression they're having is our website. And even if a box doesn't sell on our site, if that's what they look at and go, hey, I like this idea, but I want something a little bit different. Can you create something that's more along my brand colors? Having a really nice site full of like really solid boxes kind of shows them the variety of what we could do. And we do get people that obviously purchase on the site also, but even with the corporate side, having a really solid site, I think is really beneficial. And then like with regards to yes, we do a lot of seasonal, obviously. Christmas is always crazy. Yeah. We're always like stocking and like, I feel like you kind of learn certain products. It's like, we're going to order that like every year just because we know it's popular. And then some of it is like, we have an idea of like, we want to do this theme of a box. And so let me go, okay, we want to do a pizza theme box. Let me find all the elements we could think of that we want to include in our pizza theme. And then try to kind of make sure that, the aesthetics feels good together.
Yeah.
And then I
love that.
Like sometimes the custom informs the website too. Sometimes Colleen will have done a custom project for a client and been like, I love this box. We need to have this box. Because it's usually, you can just, if someone wants something and we think it could do well for other people, let's save ourselves the work next time. So sometimes it works backwards too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. There were a lot of times too where I'd be like, okay, 3 clients have booked this type of a box. So this is going to obviously go on the website, or I have leftover inventory. So this is going to be, here's my new box. Maybe I'll do a giveaway. Yeah. It's a nice way to liquidate some inventory.
Which clients can I thank with a gift box with product that it is on its way out?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like still wonderful product, but you just have this like weird mishmash. I think that was like a hard thing for me that took time to really flesh out, was like the inventory management, because of little leftover bits from a corporate product or project, or I, overbought on the site or something like that.
Totally. And that's part of why I think for us, we've never done like a full box builder on our site. We've just kept away from that so far. But we have still kept the option for people to build custom gifts. And I think to your point of ending up with like kind of a mixed match of stuff is sometimes you can create these beautiful boxes with like a product that's not on a site, but you have some extra of. And so we've still kept that option open for custom gifts. One, because I really like doing them. I am naturally a big gift giver, so I really enjoy building custom gifts. But also it is really a great opportunity to sometimes create these collections that you never normally put together, but end up beautiful and perfect for like a specific occasion. And sometimes that's a way to kind of use up some of the products that are a little more like, oh, I don't have a full run of this, but I could still create this beautiful box that fits for this specific person for that occasion.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. With Boku, I started out with a build a box. I didn't have curated boxes. I wasn't doing custom. It was just like a side fun project while I was working in corporate. And it actually really informed me of what curated boxes to do. So I had like a year and a half or so of people just building their own boxes. And so it gave me so much data to see like, oh, people are putting these things together. These are the price points that people like. Like it was really informative of that. And then it got to the point of like, okay, I can't do this anymore. So I had to close that down. But I had enough data to know, okay, people want these kinds of things. But I was like a little bit on the reverse side of it, I think, on my end, which I don't know, it's not necessarily right or wrong, but it's harder to scale that. That's for sure, that customization. So I just want to be respectful of your time because I know we've been talking for a while. I feel like I could talk to you guys so much. So we might have to do a part 2, but I'd love for you guys to just share where people can find Dare gift boxes, how they can shop with you, connect with you on Instagram, and just follow along on your journey.
Great. Well, we're Dare Gift Boxes on Instagram. That's also our website. And we try to be pretty active, depending on the week, on Instagram. So that's really the best place, even if people want to reach out. I think we try to run a very relational company for relational people. And I think we also really value when we can build relationships like that with brands. So it's really fun when brands that we can connect and get to know people through Instagram. So we really love getting to meet people through that way. So people could definitely reach out through there or through our website. And if they want to pitch any products, that's also how they could reach out. Yeah.
Well, I will put all the links in the show notes so people know how to find you guys quickly and pitch you if you are the right fit for their product. I'll put that caveat. Thank you guys so much.
Oh, thank you for having us. It was so nice to connect. And thanks for having us on. All right.
Such a good combo.
Bye, Kristen.
If you're ready to take your wholesale business to the next level on Fair, I invite you to check out the Fair Bootcamp. It's the only program of its kind that combines a step-by-step growth approach to optimize and stand out on Fair and buyer relationship building strategies to capture the attention of your ideal retailers, both on and off the Fair platform. With bite-sized, action-focused trainings, the Fair Bootcamp is designed to deliver results as quickly and efficiently as possible because I know you are busy and you do not have time to waste. So to learn more, head over to kristenfishercoaching.com/Fair Bootcamp. Thanks so much for spending some time with me today. If you are loving the show, I would be so beyond grateful if you would rate and review the podcast and share it with one of your biz besties to help spread the word. I hope that you absolutely crush your sales this week. I'll be back to chat with you next Monday.